What do you get when you mix Arctic resources, geopolitics, and Donald Trump? Answer: a diplomatic firestorm. Denmark is furious after Trump's latest remarks, claiming the U.S. needs Greenland for global security. Denmark's defense minister called the comments unreasonable, accused Trump of issuing hidden threats, and flatly declared, "This is not fitting for a U.S. president." Greenland's incoming prime minister doubled down. Greenland is not for sale. So what's really going on here? Why does Trump want Greenland so badly? Why is Denmark panicking? And is this about national security or resource conquest? Let's break it down. This isn't the first time Trump has talked about Greenland. Back in 2019, during his first term, Trump floated the idea of buying Greenland from Denmark. The world laughed. Denmark was stunned. Greenland said no. But now, under Trump's second term, it's back on the table. Speaking during an appearance on Real America's Voice, Trump said, "We have to have protection. We're going to have to make a deal on that." Denmark is not able to do that. They say they have rights to it. I don't know if that's true. Translation: Greenland may belong to Denmark on paper, but Trump believes the U.S. needs to control it, militarily, economically, and geopolitically. Denmark's government didn't hold back. Defense Minister Troels Lund Poulsen issued a scathing public rebuke saying, "These are not reasonable remarks. This shows a lack of respect for Greenland's right to decide its own future." He accused Trump of escalating regional tensions, undermining Denmark's sovereignty, and issuing a veiled threat under the guise of security. In a rare move, Poulsen also called on the European Union to back Denmark and Greenland diplomatically, warning that this could set a dangerous precedent for U.S. behavior in the Arctic. This is no longer about diplomacy. It's about territorial integrity. Greenland isn't staying silent either. The island's incoming prime minister issued a bold statement. Greenland is not for sale. We are not a bargaining chip in someone else's security doctrine. He also urged European leaders to support Greenland's right to self-determination, essentially, to help the island resist U.S. pressure. It's a striking moment. A semi-autonomous territory pushing back against the most powerful country on Earth. And behind the scenes, that resistance is gaining traction. So why is Trump so obsessed with Greenland? It's not because he wants a winter vacation spot. It's about resources, power projection, and Arctic dominance. Here's what Greenland offers. Strategic location. It sits between North America and Europe, ideal for controlling Atlantic military routes and Arctic airspace. Rare earth minerals. Greenland holds vast untapped reserves of rare earths, uranium, and other critical materials needed for defense, batteries, and advanced tech. Military expansion. The U.S. already has Thule Air Base in Greenland, a key missile early warning and space surveillance outpost. Trump likely wants to expand it permanently. Shipping routes. As Arctic ice melts, new trade routes are opening. Whoever controls Greenland controls access. Trump sees Greenland not as a novelty, but as a geostrategic prize. Here's the problem. Denmark technically owns Greenland. But Greenland is semi-autonomous, with its own parliament, leadership, and increasing calls for full independence. Copenhagen doesn't want to lose Greenland, but it also can't afford to militarily defend it against U.S. pressure. So Denmark is trapped between a rising independence movement, a belligerent U.S. president, and a resource-rich territory it can't fully control. And with Trump applying economic and diplomatic pressure, that tension is boiling over. Europe is watching this unfold with unease. The European Union has no Arctic military presence. NATO is divided on how to respond. And if Trump pushes for deeper control of Greenland, Europe may be forced to choose between Washington and Copenhagen. Denmark wants the EU to recognize Greenland's autonomy, push back against U.S. territorial pressure, possibly fund Greenland's transition to full independence. But will Brussels act? Or will it cave to U.S. power? One thing is clear. Greenland is quickly becoming a geopolitical flashpoint. Ironically, Trump's pressure could backfire. By treating Greenland like a bargaining chip, he's strengthening the very movement he fears, Greenlandic independence. More and more politicians in Nuuk, the island's capital, are calling for full sovereignty, resource nationalization, direct control over foreign affairs. Trump's pressure gives them an enemy to rally against. And if Greenland votes to break away from Denmark, it might pursue closer ties with Europe or even China, not the US. So in trying to own Greenland, Trump may actually lose it. Technically, buying Greenland isn't illegal. But it's also not going to happen. Why? Because Greenland's Home Rule Act gives it the right to veto any transfer of territory. Denmark's constitution prohibits selling land without Greenlandic consent. And international law favors self-determination, not coercive acquisition. This isn't 1867. The U.S. can't just buy territory like Alaska anymore. But Trump's comments hint at another approach: economic pressure, diplomatic disruption, and slow-motion takeover through strategic dominance. That's what has Denmark alarmed. This is part of a broader pattern. Trump doesn't see alliances. He sees assets. He's pressuring NATO to spend more, Japan and South Korea to pay more for U.S. bases, Canada to give ground on trade and security. Now, Greenland is just another asset in Trump's doctrine of transactional geopolitics. But here's the danger. The more he treats allies like targets, the more they seek alternatives, and the more U.S. influence declines. Denmark's furious not just at the Greenland comments, but at the signal they send about U.S. global behavior. Denmark's message is clear. Greenland is not for sale, and this isn't how allies treat each other. But Trump isn't backing down. He's playing a long game of military leverage, mineral extraction, and geopolitical chess. This fight isn't over a frozen island. It's over who controls the future of the Arctic and who calls the shots in a new world order. And if Greenland becomes the next geopolitical battleground, it won't be the US or Denmark that decides what happens next. It'll be Greenland itself. Should Greenland stay with Denmark, go independent, or become a US protectorate? Is Trump protecting American interests or stepping over the line? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Libertarian Uncensored for fearless coverage of global conflicts, sovereignty fights, and economic power plays the mainstream won't touch. This is Libertarian Uncensored, and this was your deep dive into the Arctic flashpoint no one saw coming.